Hey there, and welcome to Bedtime History. If you're just settling in, grab a blanket, fluff up your pillow, and let the outside world drift away for a little while. You're in exactly the right place if you're looking for a quiet escape somewhere between history's forgotten corners, whispered myths, and the kind of stories that feel like lullabies for your mind. Tonight we journey together to a place you've probably seen in movies, read about in books, or stared at with mild confusion in history class, the heart-stopping arena of a Roman chariot race. Right now, you're in ancient Rome, at the center of the legendary Circus Maximus. You feel the gritty sand beneath your sandals and smell a blend of dust, leather, horse sweat, and a suspiciously strong wine drifting from the stands. You hear the muffled roar of thousands gathered, their excitement pulsing like a heartbeat through the stadium walls. Now, quick reality check. You probably won't survive this if things go sideways, but hey, it's ancient Rome. Caution wasn't exactly their strong suit. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Oh, and feel free to drop your location and local time below. Let's see who's joining this late-night chariot race across the globe. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. I'm Serafina, and I am your host for tonight at the Bedtime History. The day starts at the crack of dawn, earlier than you'd ever willingly wake up. You rub your tired eyes and find yourself in the stables beneath Rome's famed Circus Maximus. It's a sprawling structure, grander than modern football stadiums, capable of holding over 150,000 roaring spectators. But right now, in the gentle hush of dawn, the arena sleeps quietly, giving no hint of the chaos that's soon to come. Your chariot waits nearby, a slender wooden shell balanced on two precarious wheels, little more than a rolling platform tethered to the sheer muscle power of horses bred for speed and aggression. As you approach it, your stomach does that funny flip thing. It knows the risks better than your mind. You're reminded that this sport isn't for the faint-hearted or, realistically, anyone overly fond of a long lifespan. Still, here you are, gearing up to face another race because, frankly, the thrill is addictive. Around you, stable hands scuttle quietly but urgently, their whispered Latin weaving through the cool morning air. You overhear one arguing about whether Neptune or Mars offers better protection against catastrophic crashes, because when superstition meets chariot racing, even the gods are pitted against each other. Historians still argue whether these rituals actually helped or merely calmed the nerves of racers and spectators alike. Nearby, your four horses snort restlessly, their powerful bodies shifting impatiently as they await their morning routine. Each horse has a distinct personality, one jittery and anxious, another proud and stubborn, one oddly mellow, possibly due to questionable herbs in its feed, and the fourth a seasoned professional that eye-rolls harder than any teen hearing outdated jokes. You greet each with a reassuring pat, knowing your life quite literally depends on these moody, magnificent beasts. You glance at your chariot again, noting the numerous scars etched into its sides, reminders of past races. Each scrape tells a story: fierce competitors, tight corners, near misses, and yes, a few painful crashes. But Romans loved spectacle, and there was nothing quite as spectacular as a chariot accident. Some races were so chaotic that teams of slaves were employed just to clear the wreckage and fallen riders between laps. Proof that Romans valued entertainment more than occupational safety. As you inspect the wheels, light, fragile things designed purely for speed, you silently thank whichever deity inspired your carpenter's craftsmanship. After all, there's an uncomfortable historical fact floating around your mind. Nearly half the charioteers of Rome faced severe injuries during their careers. You'd rather keep your limbs, thank you very much. Outside, the sun rises higher, bringing the city around you slowly to life. Beyond the Circus Maximus walls, street vendors begin their calls, selling hot pastries filled with honey and dates, freshly baked bread, and occasionally suspicious-looking meats. Your stomach grumbles, half hungry, half nauseous from pre-race nerves. For charioteers, breakfast was a luxury, often skipped to avoid, let's call them unfortunate distractions, mid-race. Plus, no Roman wanted to see a charioteer regretting his breakfast in front of thousands of screaming fans. You take a deep breath, inhaling the smells of straw, damp leather, and faint traces of yesterday's celebrations, because Rome was perpetually in a state of festivity or recovery from festivity. Your eyes drift upward, tracing along the massive stone arches and the tiered stands above. Soon, every inch of seating will be packed with people cheering, booing, gambling, or more likely, a chaotic mix of all three. Gambling was such an integral part of these events that entire family fortunes hinged on a single chariot's success or failure, a fact you'd prefer not to dwell upon too much. Your fellow racers arrive one by one, each preparing in his own ritualistic way. You notice that some mutter prayers under their breath, others meticulously recheck their gear, and a few sip nervously from small flasks. Historically, a combination of wine and herbs rumored to sharpen the mind. Personally, you suspect it mostly dulled the anxiety. Through a narrow opening at the end of the stables, you catch your first glimpse of the day's sky, a brilliant, cloudless blue stretching wide above the city. It's beautiful, yes, but also unforgiving. You silently hope Apollo, the sun god, will go easy on you today. After all, heatstroke mid-race would be a rather anticlimactic end to your burgeoning chariot racing fame. Finally, attendants signal it's time to start preparing your horses. Your heartbeat quickens. The calm morning hours slip away, replaced steadily by the familiar tension that fills your bones every time you step onto the track. You adjust your leather tunic, flex your fingers, and exhale slowly, savoring the last quiet moments before adrenaline completely takes control. Your chariot awaits. You step onto the wooden platform, gripping the leather reins tightly. A last glance around reminds you, this isn't just any ordinary morning in Rome. This is your morning, your race, your chance at glory, and possibly a very dramatic exit. But hey, it wouldn't be Rome without a touch of drama, would it? Your fingers tighten around the worn leather reins, feeling every groove carved by countless hours of gripping, twisting, and desperately holding on. For powerful horses stand restlessly before you, their muscles rippling beneath glossy coats. As you reach forward, gently stroking the nearest steed, a massive stallion nicknamed Brutus for his imposing strength and notoriously unpredictable temperament, you remind yourself that chariot racing isn't just speed, it's a delicate dance with 4,000-pound animals who could easily decide they're done cooperating at any moment. Around you, stable workers rush about with practiced ease, securing harnesses and checking straps. You hear murmurs from other racers, some whisper quiet prayers to Mercury, the swift-footed god, hoping for speed. Others offer hushed appeals to Fortuna, goddess of luck, which, considering your current predicament, feels equally wise. There's a curious aroma lingering in the air, a mixture of hay, horse sweat, and the sharp tang of freshly oiled leather. Strangely comforting, like the peculiar smell of your old gym shoes, though, admittedly, far less offensive. A stable boy pauses briefly beside you, offering a nervous smile as he hands you your racing whip. It's a delicate thing, crafted more for guiding than punishment. You give him a reassuring nod because, in reality, he looks far more anxious than you, probably due to the wager he undoubtedly placed on your success. Romans had an insatiable appetite for gambling. Even stable hands couldn't resist. As you inspect the harnesses, the craftsmanship catches your eye. The leatherwork is impeccable, every stitch precise. Romans took their racing gear seriously, and charioteers demanded perfection. A single faulty strap could send your career, and potentially your life, careening disastrously off track. So you give a respectful nod to the craftsmen of Rome, silently grateful for their meticulous skill, even as you question your own sanity for being here in the first place. Your horses sense your nervous energy and paw at the ground impatiently, snorting softly as their powerful muscles flex beneath polished coats. Brutus tosses his head, letting out a haughty snort as if reminding you who's really in control. Your second horse, the sleek and jittery mare named Livia, fidgets constantly, clearly more anxious than you. To be fair, if you'd witnessed as many high-speed collisions as she has, you'd be a little twitchy too. The third horse, humorously named Senator, because he stubbornly insists on doing things his own way, much like the politicians of Rome, stares at you with eyes that practically scream, "Again? Seriously?" Meanwhile, your last steed, a serene chestnut nicknamed Jupiter, watches with such detached boredom you half suspect he could sleep through the race. Jupiter's calm is unsettling. You wonder briefly if he's been secretly dosed with one of those dubious Roman herbal remedies, but you shake away the thought. At least one horse needs to be calm today. Historians still argue whether Roman charioteers truly formed deep emotional bonds with their horses or viewed them merely as prized, albeit expendable, assets. But standing here, feeling their strength beneath your fingertips, it's difficult not to feel a connection. These animals, unpredictable as they are majestic, hold your fate entirely in their hooves. Outside, a distant trumpet signals the approaching start. Your stomach tightens. You feel your heartbeat quicken, thrumming a rhythmic tattoo against your ribs. Instantly, the stables burst into frenzied action, handlers tightening straps, adjusting bits, and performing last-minute checks. You focus on your breathing, letting the noise blur into the background, your thoughts momentarily drifting to stories you've heard about fellow racers who were less fortunate. Not exactly comforting, but definitely sobering. One famous charioteer, Flavius Scorpus, raced thousands of times, winning an extraordinary number of victories before tragically dying young. Romans idolized such figures. Heroes who lived fast, raced hard, and yes, died dramatically. You'd rather skip the dying part altogether, though it seems the Romans found that oddly entertaining. Your attention snaps back as a handler steps forward, signaling it's time. Carefully, you mount your chariot, feeling the subtle sway of its fragile wooden frame beneath your feet. There's barely enough room to balance, let alone maneuver. Your feet rest precariously on a slender platform that's just wide enough to prevent immediate catastrophe. Assuming, of course, you keep your balance flawless and your luck intact. The reins, slippery yet familiar, slide comfortably into your palms as you steady yourself. You carefully align your feet, ensuring the weight distribution feels perfect. Balance is everything. A single misstep, a minor shift, and you'll find yourself sprawled across the unforgiving sands, becoming part of tomorrow's gossip at the local bathhouses. Nearby, rival racers take their positions. Some nod grimly, acknowledging your shared perilous journey. Others stare straight ahead, focused fiercely on the competition, or perhaps mentally reviewing their wills. One racer, noticeably paler than the rest, mumbles something suspiciously like "This might be my last time," and you silently hope that's just nerves talking. Stable doors swing open, revealing the bright sunlight flooding in. Your horses shift anxiously, sensing the impending challenge. You whisper calming words, though honestly, you're not sure if you're reassuring them or yourself. Probably a bit of both. The air is electric, anticipation palpable. For a brief second, everything seems to slow down, as if the gods themselves pause to watch the spectacle unfold. You glance around once more, taking in the faces of fellow charioteers, each one a mask of determination or thinly veiled terror. You imagine they see the same expression on your own face. Because honestly, you'd have to be slightly insane, or extremely confident, to willingly risk life and limb in front of thousands of roaring Romans. Possibly both. The distant trumpet sounds again, louder, clearer, urgent. It's time. Your horses surge forward, powerful bodies straining against harnesses as you desperately brace yourself, heart racing faster than your horse's pounding hooves. Whatever happens next, there's no turning back. Your chariot lunges forward, carrying you headlong into the awaiting chaos. Sunlight explodes around you as you burst from the darkened stables, eyes momentarily blinded by the brightness. You blink rapidly, adjusting to the glare, and instantly feel the full force of Rome's excitement bearing down upon you. Thousands of voices meld into a deafening roar, rising and falling like storm waves, echoing through every bone in your body. Welcome to the Circus Maximus, where blood, sweat, and occasionally tears combine into Rome's favorite spectacle. Your chariot rattles beneath you, vibrating with urgency as the wheels skip lightly over sand packed tight by countless races. Dust billows up, forming small clouds that swirl and drift around you, mingling with the scent of horse sweat and stale wine from the rowdy crowd. Choking dust aside, there's something undeniably thrilling about the way Rome opens its arms to welcome, or perhaps devour, you and your competitors. You tighten your grip, leather reins sliding through sweaty fingers, heart hammering like an out-of-control drumbeat. Ahead, the massive iron-studded gates that separate you from the track loom ever closer. Beside you, your horses snort and strain, muscles rippling like coils of steel under their glistening coats, eager to be unleashed. The crowd roars louder now, anticipating the imminent start. Your eyes flick upwards to the highest tiers of the Circus Maximus, where colorful banners flutter, marking distinct sections of supporters: blues, greens, reds, whites, fiercely loyal factions whose devotion often led to riots. Romans were nothing if not passionately dedicated fans. Think modern-day football enthusiasts, but considerably less polite. As you approach the gate, adrenaline surges through your veins like liquid lightning. Time slows for a heartbeat. This is it, the last precious seconds before you're thrown headlong into chaos. The handlers at your side shout instructions drowned out by the cheering crowd. Honestly, at this point, they could be reciting poetry for all you care. You can barely hear them anyway. The gates creak open slowly, ponderously, giving you just enough time for one final silent prayer, or perhaps a frantic reconsideration of your life choices. Either way, it's far too late to turn back. You glance briefly at your competitors, catching glimpses of clenched jaws, determined eyes, and yes, one charioteer looking suspiciously green around the edges. You hope he'll hold it together, quite literally, once the racing gets rough. Suddenly, the gates swing wide, and the full deafening roar of the crowd blasts you, nearly knocking the breath from your lungs. You flick the reins instinctively, yelling encouragement to your horses, voice cracking slightly from nerves, or puberty. You're never quite sure. Your chariot leaps forward, propelled by the explosive strength of 4 mighty horses. Wind whips past your face, stinging your eyes, tugging your hair back as your heartbeat pounds like a war drum in your ears. The arena is breathtakingly immense, stretching endlessly before you, filled to overflowing with cheering, jeering spectators who've placed their money, pride, and possibly their dinner on your chances of success. You quickly scan your surroundings. The track ahead is sandy, deceptively smooth, but you know better. Beneath that inviting surface lies treachery, hidden grooves, leftover debris, and wheel ruts eager to sabotage the inattentive racer. Historically, Romans occasionally scattered sharp objects on the track to up the entertainment factor, because watching charioteers narrowly avoid death apparently wasn't exciting enough. Historians still argue whether these deliberate hazards were more legend than fact, but honestly, right now, you'd rather not test the theory. Your horses gallop forward with reckless abandon, stretching their powerful legs, hooves pounding out a rhythm you feel deep in your chest. The chariot vibrates alarmingly beneath your feet, reminding you just how precariously you're balanced between glory and disaster. To your right, a rival charioteer edges closer, the wheels of his chariot dangerously close to yours. He shoots you a quick glance, a silent challenge perhaps, or just a terrified plea for mercy. Honestly, you're too busy keeping yourself alive to care much about his motives. You flick the reins sharply, urging your horses ahead, feeling them surge forward with renewed power, their determination matching yours. As the track curves ahead, the infamous first bend, your muscles tense, anticipating the chaos that inevitably unfolds here. This sharp corner is notorious for spectacular crashes, Even seasoned racers dread its unforgiving angle. Statistically, it's the most dangerous spot in any chariot race, a reassuring fact you'd rather not remember right now. You shift your balance slightly, leaning into the curve, silently thankful for the extra grip your sandals provide against the worn wooden platform. Other racers do the same, bodies tilting, faces twisted in concentration or panic. You're not entirely sure which. Probably a mixture of both. Your horses lean into the turn expertly, navigating the curve with surprising grace, though your chariot sways alarmingly beneath you. You brace yourself, muscles straining as you desperately maintain control. Sand sprays up in a gritty cascade, blurring your vision and stinging your eyes. You blink furiously, wondering briefly if Romans had some sort of primitive goggles to handle this. Though considering their habit of using crocodile dung as sunscreen, maybe blurry vision wasn't their biggest problem. Through the gritty haze, you notice one chariot wobbling dangerously, its rider struggling for control. Wheels lock briefly, causing a shower of sparks and splintered wood. You instinctively steer clear, praying silently for both his safety and your continued good fortune. Fortunately, the chariot rights itself, though its rider now looks significantly paler than before. The crowd, of course, loves it, roaring even louder at the near disaster. Romans were nothing if not consistent in their taste for drama and violence. A morbidly charming trait, provided you weren't the one supplying their entertainment. With the first corner now safely, well, relatively safely, behind you, your heart rate eases slightly. Only slightly. After all, more laps and countless dangers still await, each curve a fresh opportunity for chaos. But for this brief moment, racing down the straightaway, the wind roaring in your ears, you allow yourself a small, triumphant smile. Ahead stretches the track, filled with rivals, risk, and the seductive promise of glory. Behind you lie the dangers momentarily overcome, and somewhere beyond, cheering wildly in the stands, the citizens of Rome revel in the spectacle you've provided. You grip the reins tighter, lean forward slightly, and brace yourself for whatever awaits at the next curve. The roar of the crowd blends into a distant hum, swallowed by the relentless pounding of hooves against the unforgiving sands beneath you. The straightaway was merely a brief reprieve. Now the infamous second curve looms ahead, promising another dose of heart-stopping chaos. Romans loved their thrills, and this hairpin bend, appropriately named the Widowmaker, never failed to deliver. You quickly glance at your horses, assessing their rhythm. Brutus leads with reckless confidence, his strength barely restrained by your trembling reins. Beside him, Livia jitters with nervous energy, visibly uncomfortable but still holding pace. Senator appears annoyingly nonchalant, his stubborn stride refusing to match his teammates precisely. Classic Senator, while Jupiter, your ever-calm anchor, strides smoothly, as if he were leisurely trotting through an orchard rather than racing toward potential disaster. You ease your body slightly forward, adjusting your stance carefully on the swaying wooden platform. Balance is critical here. Too much weight to either side, and your chariot might just spill you onto the track, providing Rome with the kind of entertainment they craved, but that you'd prefer to avoid. Your feet shift instinctively, muscles tensed, ready to counterbalance whatever force the turn might throw at you. The curve approaches swiftly, narrowing ominously ahead. Other chariots tighten ranks around you, rivals jostling aggressively for the best position to navigate the turn. Suddenly, a competitor nudges dangerously close, his wheels nearly brushing yours. You shoot him a look, part annoyance, part grudging admiration for his audacity. Romans were fiercely competitive, and aggressive racing wasn't just encouraged, it was practically mandatory. You brace yourself, leaning slightly inward, gripping the reins tightly, fingers aching from tension. This turn has claimed more wheels and lives than you care to remember, and you'd rather not become another cautionary tale whispered solemnly around Roman taverns. As the bend begins, your horses expertly adjust their angle, bodies tilting gracefully despite their immense strength and speed. Your chariot responds instantly, wheels gripping tightly packed sand, sliding slightly but holding firm for now. Adrenaline floods your veins, heightening every sensation. The gritty taste of dust coating your tongue, the scent of horse sweat sharp in your nostrils, and the thunderous sound of hooves echoing rhythmically, almost hypnotically, through your bones. Ahead, a rival chariot swings too wide, attempting an ambitious maneuver, miscalculating by mere inches. You watch helplessly as its wheels clip a barrier, splintering wood and sending chunks of debris hurtling wildly. Time slows, details crystal clear. The shocked expression on the rider's face, his chariot briefly airborne, horses panicked and scattering, dragging wreckage behind. You instinctively swerve, feeling a wave of relief mixed with guilt as you narrowly miss the carnage unfolding beside you. Historians still argue whether Romans found genuine joy or simple morbid fascination in these crashes, but the sheer volume of betting, cheering, and spectacle around these events leaves little doubt that at least a touch of grim amusement colored their appreciation. You silently apologize to your fallen rival, hoping sincerely that Rome's renowned medics, a mix of genuine skill and questionable methods involving animal dung and herbs, can patch him up adequately. Your chariot continues to sway precariously, wheels skidding slightly, threatening to lose grip. Heart in your throat, you tighten your grip on the reins, whispering frantic encouragement to your horses. Brutus responds by surging forward, muscles bulging impressively as he pulls fiercely, nearly throwing you off balance. Senator, predictably, decides this is the moment to slow slightly, causing an awkward tug in your harness that nearly tips the chariot sideways. You curse softly under your breath. Clearly, Senator's political ambitions include sabotaging your day. With desperate effort, you shift your weight again, coaxing Senator back into rhythm. Livia and Jupiter maintain pace, thankfully oblivious, or indifferent, to the drama. You exhale slowly, feeling your heart rate reluctantly stabilize, though the adrenaline still tingles sharply through every nerve. Just another day at the races. The curve finally relents, straightening into a blessedly less perilous stretch. Your horses sense the easing tension, bodies relaxing slightly, pace evening out into a steady gallop. Behind you, the wreckage lies scattered, quickly attended by slaves trained specifically to clear accidents, one of Rome's more unusual yet entirely necessary occupations. The fallen rider appears dazed but alive, already receiving medical attention. A small relief, tempered by the reality that the race must, and does, continue mercilessly onward. The crowd, predictably energized by the crash, screams louder, excitement spiking to new heights. Romans loved their entertainment flavored with a dash of danger, tragedy, and triumph. Today's events thus far certainly haven't disappointed. You briefly relax your shoulders, muscles aching slightly from constant tension, but the race is far from finished. The track ahead, still crowded with eager competitors, stretches invitingly, dangerously open. You focus again, planning your next move carefully. Strategy matters. Knowing when to push aggressively and when to preserve strength is crucial to surviving a Roman chariot race. As you straighten your posture slightly, scanning your competition, you catch sight of familiar faces. Veteran racers whose names Romans shouted fervently, younger charioteers hungry for fame, and even a few unfortunate souls clearly questioning every decision that led them to this moment. One charioteer, in particular, looks suspiciously close to tears, a reminder that Rome's entertainment often involved real suffering, much to the crowd's delight. You glance upward, momentarily distracted by the towering imperial box, adorned with richly colored banners. Rome's elite watch keenly from comfortable seats, occasionally sipping wine and lazily placing extravagant wagers. For a second, you imagine yourself seated comfortably among them, enjoying the spectacle rather than risking life and limb for their amusement. Then again, lounging comfortably rarely earns the wild acclaim, or occasional riches, of a successful charioteer. Shaking away distracting thoughts, you refocus sharply on the track ahead. Your horses, sensing your renewed determination, surge forward again, hooves pounding rhythmically against sand packed firm by countless chariots before yours. Wind rushes past your face, dust stings your eyes, and adrenaline spikes anew, fueling your resolve. You lean slightly forward, urging your horses onward, reminding yourself silently that glory awaits those who dare and survive. And after all, survival, at least in the Circus Maximus, is victory enough. The dust settles momentarily as your horses glide into the next stretch, affording you a brief, and much-needed, moment to recalibrate. By now, your entire body hums with adrenaline, every nerve alert, senses heightened. You feel each grain of sand grinding beneath your wheels, smell the hot sweat shimmering off your horses' backs, and hear the wild cheers of thousands echoing around you. It's oddly comforting, this sensory overload. Though, admittedly, comfort is relative when you're balancing atop a fragile wooden cart pulled by a quartet of unpredictable animals. But now your attention shifts to one critical skill every Roman charioteer must master: balance. Balancing isn't just about staying upright, though that's undeniably important. It's about managing weight distribution, understanding momentum, and most crucially, keeping calm under conditions that would send normal people screaming straight into early retirement or therapy. Your feet shift slightly on the narrow platform beneath you. There's barely enough room to plant your feet securely, and historians still argue whether the notoriously slim chariot designs prioritized speed or spectacle. Probably both, you muse darkly, because nothing thrilled Roman spectators quite like watching riders desperately struggle to remain upright. Your stance is practiced, knees bent slightly to absorb shocks from the uneven track, your body gently swaying in rhythm with the chariot's constant vibrations. You maintain your grip firmly on the reins, your fingers now numb but instinctively responsive. Your horses, sensing your confident posture, settle into a steady, powerful gallop, reassured by your calm, or perhaps simply relieved you're no longer flailing like a Roman senator caught in a scandal. With a gentle tug, you adjust Brutus slightly to the left, steering carefully to avoid the deepest grooves carved by previous racers. Brutus complies willingly, this time, though his restless snort reminds you his cooperation remains entirely voluntary. Livia, seemingly calmed by your steadiness, finally matches pace smoothly, though her ears still flick nervously at every unexpected sound. Senator, unsurprisingly, remains mildly resistant, occasionally lagging just enough to keep things interesting, while Jupiter strides serenely forward, apparently lost in some tranquil equine meditation. Your chariot sails smoothly, at least, as smoothly as anything can move atop Roman racing sands. For a heartbeat, you appreciate just how much skill goes into this seemingly reckless sport. Charioteers weren't simply fearless, they trained meticulously, mastering complex maneuvers, perfecting balance, and yes, occasionally bribing the gods with offerings to survive another day. Ahead, you notice a slight obstacle, a patch of debris from an earlier collision, littering the track. Your eyes quickly calculate your approach, mind racing faster than your horse's pounding hooves. A sudden, swift decision is needed: swerve slightly and risk instability, or charge straight through and hope your wheels withstand the impact. Deciding quickly, mostly because indecision wasn't exactly Rome's favored trait, you lean gently to the right, steering your horses in a subtle curve around the debris. Your chariot wheels skim perilously close, and for a brief, terrifying moment, you feel the cart wobble alarmingly beneath you. Heart pounding, you adjust your weight instantly, muscles screaming protest at this unexpected exertion. Balance regained barely. You breathe a shaky sigh of relief. For Romans, avoiding disasters was nearly as exhilarating as causing them, and you silently wonder if Rome's spectators appreciated how much effort went into your seemingly effortless maneuvers. Probably not, considering their fondness for spectacular crashes. Nearby, a rival racer isn't so fortunate. Unable to react swiftly, his chariot hits the debris directly, wheels splintering violently beneath him. You cringe instinctively as he tumbles, landing in a cloud of dust and sand. Thankfully, he quickly scrambles upright, cursing loudly enough to be heard above the roaring crowd, clearly more embarrassed than injured, at least physically. His pride, however, might take a bit longer to recover. The crowd, predictably delighted by this drama, erupts in thunderous applause. Romans had an uncanny talent for celebrating disaster with enthusiastic vigor, a trait both charming and deeply unsettling, especially when you were the one teetering on the edge of calamity. Refocusing quickly, you glance ahead. Your horses gallop confidently, energized by the straightaway now stretching open ahead. Feeling a slight surge of pride, you ease your grip slightly, allowing your body a precious moment to relax. Muscles sore from constant tension ache gratefully, though you remain wary. Relaxation, however tempting, must remain brief. The next curve awaits, ready to test your balance once more. You glance at your wheels, briefly marveling at their durability despite their deceptively fragile appearance. Roman chariot wheels were masterpieces of engineering, meticulously designed from layers of hardwood, leather bindings, and iron rims to provide strength and agility. Even so, failures were common, a grim reality you preferred not to dwell upon, especially mid-race. Above, the sun beats down mercilessly, sweat trickling irritatingly down your spine, itching beneath the heavy leather tunic. You silently thank whichever god inspired Romans to avoid heavy armor during races, because balance was hard enough without metal weighing you down. Still, the heat adds another challenge. Dizziness from dehydration was a common complaint among charioteers, though thankfully less common than crashes. Ahead, another sharp turn approaches rapidly. Your pulse quickens again, muscles automatically tensing, feet instinctively shifting to brace for the upcoming bend. Charioteering was as much instinct as practiced skill, your body moving automatically, drawing upon countless hours of relentless training. As the turn nears, you briefly imagine yourself from the crowd's perspective, a tiny figure atop a speeding wooden platform, clinging desperately yet gracefully to life. You almost laugh at the absurdity. Almost, because laughing while desperately balancing atop a speeding chariot probably wouldn't improve your odds of survival. Your horses lean expertly into the curve, bodies gracefully angling, powerful muscles flexing beneath sleek coats. Your chariot responds immediately, wheels gripping tightly, sliding just enough to remind you that absolute control is impossible, but that skillful negotiation with chaos is entirely achievable. Finally rounding the bend, you exhale slowly, relief washing over you once again. Balancing between triumph and tragedy might define your existence as a charioteer, but surviving another dangerous curve feels genuinely victorious. Your horses straighten out, resuming their powerful gallop toward whatever dangers await next. You settle into a practiced stance once more, muscles tired yet alert, ready for the endless series of challenges Roman racing inevitably provides. Balance isn't simply a skill, it's a state of mind, a negotiation between danger and control, caution and courage, chaos and composure. And for now, you've found your balance again. At least, until the next inevitable crisis appears just around the track's unforgiving bend. Just when you've convinced yourself you've earned a moment to breathe, the racing gods, or more accurately, the mischievous nature of Roman entertainment, decide it's time for fresh chaos. Ahead, another chariot suddenly wobbles dangerously, its rider frantically struggling for control. You brace instinctively, sensing what's about to happen even before the inevitable unfolds. Sure enough, wheels lock, horses panic, and the rider tumbles into the dirt, leaving a tangle of splintered wood and tangled reins sprawled across your path. Your pulse spikes sharply. There's no time for hesitation, only swift action. With practiced urgency, you tug the reins sharply, veering your horses to avoid colliding with the wreckage. Jupiter, your calm anchor, responds smoothly, while Brutus lunges forward eagerly, as if he views this chaos as a personal challenge. Livia nervously sidesteps, barely skirting debris, and Senator, predictably, hesitates just enough to make things awkward. Your chariot skids slightly, wheels slipping over loose sand, barely regaining traction. Breathing raggedly, heart pounding fiercely, you steer around the wreckage, glancing back briefly to confirm the fallen rider is alive. Fortunately, he's already stumbling upright, shaking his fist at nobody in particular. Good, Romans preferred their entertainment dramatic, but you preferred your rival's breathing. The track ahead clears momentarily, giving you space to process your narrow escape. Around you, competitors regain their stride, each silently grateful to have dodged disaster. You catch glances exchanged among racers, nods of mutual respect tinged with grim humor. Surviving a Roman chariot race created an odd camaraderie. Rivals, yes, but bonded by shared peril. Historically, Romans famously placed bets on virtually everything. Race outcomes, crashes, injuries, even which horse would misbehave first. Gambling was an obsession, and watching rivals crash provided an extra thrill. Romans seemed convinced that Fortuna, the capricious goddess of luck, personally influenced every race outcome, a belief you find increasingly plausible with every near miss. Ahead, the track narrows again, funneling racers into a tight corridor, forcing another anxious maneuvering session. Your pulse quickens. These bottlenecks were infamous, scenes of collisions and chaos. With a practiced flick, you urge your horses slightly ahead, positioning strategically near the front. Leading through tight spots was safer. Well, as safe as anything involving speeding chariots and unpredictable animals could be. Suddenly, you spot something flying through the air, a fragment of splintered wheel, spinning alarmingly toward you. Instinctively, you duck, narrowly avoiding impact as the debris sails harmlessly past your head. Romans occasionally joked, darkly, that helmets were merely decorative, but right now, you'd gladly trade your racing laurels for sturdier headgear. Shaking away lingering fear, you grip your reins tightly again, regaining composure. Near misses were part of Roman racing. Dwelling on danger meant distraction, and distraction here typically ended poorly. Still, historians argue whether racers genuinely shrugged off these incidents or merely pretended bravery for Rome's eager audiences, though you suspect a combination of both. Your horses surge forward confidently now, settling into a steady rhythm. Brutus leads boldly, Senator grudgingly keeps pace, Livia remains skittish but steady, and Jupiter, true to form, trots calmly, apparently unconcerned by the unfolding drama. You silently thank Jupiter's equine indifference. At least one horse needed composure. The cheering crowd grows louder, fueled by the excitement of near disasters. Romans, after all, preferred spectacle, especially when lives and fortunes hung precariously balanced. Spectators above gesture wildly, yelling bets, encouragement, insults, sometimes all at once. The noise is deafening, yet oddly energizing, a constant reminder you're performing for Rome's insatiable appetite for thrills. As you glance sideways, another competitor edges dangerously close, clearly hoping to intimidate. You raise an eyebrow, unimpressed. After surviving flying debris, his attempt at intimidation seems amusingly tame. Nonetheless, you nudge your horses slightly aside, unwilling to risk collision. Romans adored aggressive tactics, but recklessness rarely ended well, for anyone involved. Your rival backs away slightly, apparently reconsidering his boldness. Good decision, you silently commend him, hoping he's learned a valuable lesson in calculated bravery. Racing involved strategic aggression, not foolish bravado, though admittedly, the line between those often blurred alarmingly. Ahead, another tricky corner approaches, forcing your attention sharply forward again. Your feet shift instinctively, muscles tensed, prepared to maintain balance through the impending curve. Your horses lean expertly, bodies angling gracefully despite their speed. The chariot tilts sharply, wheels skimming sand precariously, threatening to lose grip. You brace instinctively, shifting weight carefully, keeping your precarious balance intact. As you straighten from the curve, relief washes through you briefly. Another dangerous turn survived, barely. Behind you, the chaos continues. Shouts, crashes, splintering wood, but thankfully, this time safely distant. Romans preferred their entertainment thrilling, but surviving intact remains your primary goal. Your horses gallop forward again, settling once more into rhythm. Dust stings your eyes, sweat trickles uncomfortably down your back, yet you feel strangely invigorated, adrenaline fueling your resolve. Chariot racing offered endless peril, yes, but also unmatched exhilaration, something Romans understood intimately, embracing danger with eager enthusiasm. You briefly wonder, during rare moments of clarity amid chaos, how future historians would view this reckless pursuit of entertainment. Would they marvel at your courage, laugh at your foolishness, or shake their heads at the absurdity of risking life for fleeting fame? Probably all three, you mused dryly, because charioteering embodied Rome's paradoxes: glory and danger, fame and folly, brilliance and brutality intertwined inseparably. Around you, competitors jostle, push, and weave expertly, each maneuvering skillfully around danger. Occasionally, debris flies, collisions occur, yet the race relentlessly continues. Romans loved their spectacle relentless, their drama ceaseless, and chariot races provided ample opportunities for both. Ahead, another competitors will suddenly splinters dramatically, sending fragments scattering wildly. You steer carefully, narrowly avoiding impact, adrenaline surging sharply again. Romans might love their crashes, but you'd prefer to witness them safely, from a comfortable distance. Your chariot rattles slightly, wheels wobbling precariously but holding firm. Silently thanking whichever Roman craftsman expertly built them, probably fueled by wine, you steady your grip, regaining composure once more. Surviving Roman races demanded skill, instinct, and luck, a combination precariously balanced every moment. Settling into rhythm again, you exhale slowly, savoring another narrow escape. The track stretches dangerously ahead, crowded with risk, rivals, and relentless challenge. Yet strangely, amid chaos, you feel oddly peaceful, a paradox only Roman charioteers understood. Surviving another lap feels victorious, at least until the next inevitable danger appears, just around the Circus Maximus's merciless bend. A thunderous roar surges around you, louder now, as if Rome itself trembles beneath the sheer force of the crowd's excitement. Thousands upon thousands of spectators scream your name, or at least, you imagine they do. Truthfully, they're probably shouting for anyone remotely upright at this point, but let's enjoy the fantasy. After all, surviving thus far practically makes you a celebrity by Roman standards, though admittedly, Roman celebrity was notoriously fleeting, sometimes lasting exactly as long as it took for the next spectacular crash to occur. You glance upward momentarily, catching sight of ornate spectator boxes towering high above, draped lavishly in vibrant banners. Rome's wealthiest citizens recline there in luxurious comfort, occasionally nibbling snacks, sipping wine, and casually betting fortunes on the outcome of your perilous journey. You briefly envy their relaxed detachment, though perhaps not their questionable snack choices. Ancient Roman street food had a suspicious habit of involving fermented fish sauces that smelled exactly as appealing as they sound. Returning your focus swiftly downward, you notice a slight vibration beneath your feet. The wooden platform of your chariot feels subtly different, perhaps weakened from earlier strain. You silently hope it's merely imagination, or perhaps Romans' notorious paranoia seeping into your consciousness. Historically, charioteers were famously superstitious, often carrying lucky charms. Everything from small figurines of Mercury to pieces of horsehair braided carefully into bracelets. Historians still debate how much these superstitions actually influenced racing outcomes, but frankly, you'll take any luck you can get at this point. Ahead, the track curves again slightly, presenting another opportunity for spectators to scream encouragement, insults, or a colorful mix of both. Romans never tired of spectacle. Each curve, each near miss, each triumph or tragedy fueled their enthusiasm. You grip the reins tighter, mentally bracing yourself, silently appealing to whichever gods might feel generous today. Mars for strength, Mercury for speed, Fortuna for luck. Frankly, You'll even take help from Bacchus if he's sober enough. Your horses gallop powerfully now, driven by your encouragement and perhaps the collective energy of Rome itself. Brutus charges forward boldly, Senator stubbornly keeps pace, though you suspect more from boredom than obedience. Livia moves nervously but steadily, and Jupiter remains predictably serene. You briefly wonder if Jupiter secretly dreams of retirement, perhaps a peaceful pasture far from screaming Romans. Honestly, you wouldn't blame him. As you round the gentle curve, your eyes drift briefly upward again, scanning the stands. You catch glimpses of waving banners, blue, green, red, white, the fiercely competitive factions of Rome, passionately loyal to their chosen teams. These factions, or factions, were Rome's equivalent of modern sports teams, complete with rabid supporters, heated rivalries, and occasional riots when things didn't go their way. Romans took their entertainment seriously, perhaps a touch too seriously. A sudden cheer erupts near the imperial box. Your heart quickens briefly. Did the emperor himself just gesture approvingly toward you, or perhaps merely wave away an irritating insect? You're honestly not certain, though historians note emperors frequently attended chariot races, partly because they genuinely enjoyed spectacle, and partly because appearing publicly boosted popularity, especially when races provided ample distractions from Rome's frequent political scandals. You refocus swiftly, reminding yourself that momentary distractions here can end disastrously. Your horses sense your renewed attention, galloping powerfully onward, hooves pounding rhythmically. Ahead stretches another long straightaway, inviting speed, risk, and hopefully temporary safety. Your chariot rattles slightly again beneath your feet, causing momentary alarm. You glance downward warily, assessing wheels, harnesses, every strap and buckle you can glimpse. Everything appears intact, for now. Still, your brief anxiety reminds you just how fragile this entire setup truly is. A precarious balancing act between Roman craftsmanship, animal cooperation, and sheer dumb luck. The crowd grows louder again, responding enthusiastically as you pass beneath spectator boxes. Romans weren't exactly subtle about displaying favorites. Cheers and jeers provided constant, unmistakable feedback. You briefly wonder how many bets currently rest on your survival, victory, or spectacular crash. Probably all three simultaneously. Romans hedged their bets enthusiastically. The sunlight overhead blazes hotter now, midday heat intensifying. Sweat trickles annoyingly down your forehead, stinging your eyes, making you briefly wish Romans had invested slightly more thought into racing attire. Leather tunics offered minimal ventilation, and Rome's notorious summers provided little relief. Still, you endure discomfort silently, complaining rarely improved Romans' opinions of charioteers. Ahead, another sharp corner approaches, forcing renewed focus. Your feet shift instinctively again, bracing carefully, muscles tense yet prepared. Your horses angle gracefully into the turn, chariot wheels gripping tightly, sliding just enough to remind you that absolute control remains elusive, but manageable. The curve passes swiftly, thankfully without incident. Relief floods briefly through your veins, accompanied by the unmistakable thrill of accomplishment. Each survived corner feels victorious, another small triumph amid constant peril. Glancing upward again briefly, you spot spectators gesturing wildly, urging you onward with passionate enthusiasm. You feel strangely energized by their excitement, even if motivated purely by gambling losses or gains. Romans were notoriously fickle supporters, passionately loyal one moment, ruthlessly critical the next, depending entirely on racing outcomes and personal stakes. Yet despite their unpredictability, Rome's spectators were undeniably powerful motivators. Their cheers, jeers, bets, and curses combined into relentless energy fueling each race. You silently acknowledge their chaotic encouragement, embracing their collective enthusiasm, even if occasionally unsettling. Ahead stretches the track, filled with danger, excitement, and the endless potential for triumph or tragedy. You tighten your grip again, lean slightly forward, urging your horses powerfully onward. Each hoofbeat resonates sharply, rhythmically, a steady heartbeat propelling you forward. In the stands, spectators cheer wildly, passionately, eagerly witnessing your daring, reckless journey. For Romans, your risks, courage, and occasional disasters provided endless entertainment. For you, their excitement offers strange reassurance amid constant peril, a reminder that your daring journey resonates profoundly. Romans adored spectacle, drama, risk, tragedy intertwined. Surviving thus far feels victorious, though danger still awaits inevitably ahead. Yet somehow, amid chaos, excitement, and peril, you feel strangely calm, a paradox Roman charioteers intimately understood. Ahead, the track stretches dangerously yet invitingly forward, filled with rivals, risk, triumph, and tragedy. You exhale slowly, savoring another brief victory. At least until the next inevitable challenge arises, ready to test your courage, skill, and balance once more. Just when you start believing you've experienced every conceivable trick your rivals could throw at you, Roman creativity, or perhaps sheer desperation, reminds you otherwise. As the race barrels into its later stages, strategies evolve quickly. Rivals who appeared cautious before now gamble recklessly, hoping to seize any slim chance of victory, or, at the very least, survival. Romans loved spectacle, and no racer wanted to disappoint. Especially since disappointing Roman spectators typically led to enthusiastic booing, throne produce, and occasionally, more creative demonstrations of dissatisfaction. Suddenly, a chariot darts swiftly beside you, maneuvering alarmingly close, its wheels brushing perilously near your own. You glance sharply sideways, recognizing the racer. A seasoned competitor known for aggressive tactics and questionable personal hygiene, possibly designed to repel rivals through sheer odor. Clearly, his strategy tonight involves intimidation and questionable grooming choices. He shouts something unintelligible, either a friendly challenge or a rude insult, perhaps both, and you respond with a grin that hopefully appears confident, though probably comes across as slightly unhinged. Racing adrenaline does funny things to expressions, particularly when rivals smell suspiciously like garlic and desperation. Historically, Romans encouraged aggressive tactics among charioteers, partly for entertainment value, partly because aggressive racing reduced predictability, something Romans adored. Historians still debate how much influence aggressive tactics actually had on race outcomes, though considering Romans' passion for betting, spectacle, and drama, you suspect aggression mattered significantly, if only to keep spectators entertained and wagers exciting. Ahead, the aggressive racer suddenly attempts something unexpected. He sharply angles his horses directly into your path, forcing immediate reaction. You tug the reins swiftly, heart pounding fiercely, maneuvering your horses deftly aside. Brutus snarls angrily, clearly annoyed by this audacity. Livia skitters nervously, Senator stubbornly hesitates, as always, and Jupiter calmly sidesteps, apparently unimpressed by the unfolding drama. Your chariot narrowly avoids collision, wheels skimming precariously close to the aggressor's cart. You exchange another glance, silently acknowledging his boldness, though you briefly question his sanity. Romans admired daring maneuvers, but there remained a fine line between boldness and recklessness, one you'd rather avoid crossing yourself. Crowds roar louder, thrilled by this unexpected drama. Romans famously enjoyed unpredictability, crashes, rivalries, daring maneuvers all combined into perfect entertainment. You briefly wonder how much money just changed hands on your near collision. Likely considerable sums, knowing Rome's notorious gamblers. Ahead, another competitor employs a very different strategy: subtlety. Rather than aggression, he carefully shadows closely, waiting patiently for opportunities. Romans occasionally joked, darkly, that patient racers survived longest, though admittedly, survival rates remained depressingly low regardless of strategy. Still, subtlety seemed refreshingly sane compared to aggressive rivals, and certainly less aromatic. Your chariot rattles slightly beneath your feet, wheels occasionally skidding over loose sand patches. You grip reins tighter, assessing carefully. Subtle racers posed hidden dangers, quietly waiting opportunities. Patience paid off occasionally. Impatience usually ended spectacularly, something Romans appreciated far more enthusiastically than racers themselves. Suddenly, another rival employs yet another tactic entirely: distraction. He shouts loudly, waving dramatically, possibly feigning distress, perhaps genuinely panicking. You glance briefly sideways, assessing quickly. True panic, deception, or theatrical entertainment designed purely for Rome's cheering masses? Possibly all three simultaneously. Romans loved complexity and confusion, especially when gambling outcomes depended upon them. You swiftly decide ignoring him remains wisest. Distractions rarely ended well here. Historically, racers occasionally pretended trouble, hoping rivals might hesitate helpfully, or amusingly collide from distraction. Romans, predictably, found these tactics hilarious. Racers themselves typically appreciated them significantly less. Ignoring your theatrical rival, you refocus sharply forward, urging horses swiftly onward. Brutus snorts disdainfully. Apparently, he shares your assessment regarding distractions. Livia nervously keeps pace. Senator grudgingly matches rhythm. Jupiter serenely continues trotting. You silently thank Jupiter's equine indifference. At least one horse remains calmly oblivious amid racing chaos. Your chariot sails smoothly onward, wheels skimming sand effortlessly, for now. You exhale slowly, appreciating rare, brief stability amid constant Roman racing chaos. Brief respites offered precious recovery moments, though admittedly, recovery remains fleeting here. Ahead, another rival suddenly attempts something uniquely bizarre. He deliberately slows significantly, forcing trailing competitors, including yourself, to swiftly maneuver aside. Confusion briefly reigns. What exactly is his strategy? Possibly none beyond causing chaos. Romans occasionally preferred unpredictability purely for entertainment's sake. You swiftly maneuver aside, narrowly avoiding collision, heart racing sharply again. Romans famously enjoyed spectacle, drama, confusion. Each provided excellent entertainment, though admittedly, racers themselves preferred predictability whenever possible. Your chariot rattles slightly again beneath your feet, wheels occasionally skidding alarmingly, perhaps weakened slightly from repeated strain. You grip reins tighter, silently appealing again to whichever gods might feel merciful. Mars, Mercury, Fortuna, even Bacchus if sober enough. At this point, you'll accept assistance gratefully from whichever deity remains remotely interested. Historians still debate precisely how seriously Roman charioteers took religious rituals, though considering constant peril involved, you suspect superstition remained understandably popular. Romans typically preferred hedging bets, even regarding divine intervention. Ahead stretches track invitingly open, though rivals still crowd dangerously around, each employing varying strategies: aggression, subtlety, distraction, even deliberate chaos, all vying desperately for victory or survival. You tighten grip again, silently assessing each competitor carefully. Each poses hidden dangers, opportunities, challenges. Crowds roar louder again, responding enthusiastically to recent drama, spectacle, confusion. Romans adored unpredictability, complexity, even occasional absurdity. Each enhanced entertainment value significantly. You silently acknowledge their enthusiasm, though occasionally question their sanity. Then again, willingly racing Roman chariots arguably suggests questionable sanity itself. Settling rhythmically again into steady gallop, you exhale slowly, savoring brief respite amid chaos. Ahead stretches track dangerously yet invitingly, filled with risk, rivals, unpredictable Roman racing strategies. You tighten grip again, lean slightly forward, silently determined. Whatever tactics rivals employ next, you remain prepared, cautious, focused. Romans adored unpredictability, complexity, daring. Qualities perfectly embodied here. Surviving another lap feels victorious. at least until inevitable next crisis arises, testing courage, skill, balance again. Yet strangely, amid chaos, complexity, excitement, you feel oddly calm, perhaps Roman racing paradox itself, perfectly embodied here. Just as you finally settle into the illusion of rhythm, comforted by the familiar sway of your chariot and the steady beat of hooves beneath you, fate, perhaps annoyed by your brief moment of confidence, decides it's time for a fresh twist of danger. Your wheels suddenly skid, catching alarmingly on a hidden rut in the sand, jolting your chariot violently sideways. Your heart leaps directly into your throat, adrenaline surging through every nerve, instantly obliterating any illusion of calm you'd foolishly entertained. Your muscles respond instinctively, desperately shifting weight to counterbalance, feet gripping the slender platform beneath you, fingers clutching leather reins tightly enough to turn your knuckles white. Everything around you seems to slow dramatically, sensations sharp and vivid. Each grain of sand spraying upward, the terrified whinny of your horses, even the collective gasp from thousands of spectators who sense impending disaster. Historically, chariot racing was notoriously dangerous. Crashes were frequent, injuries severe, survival uncertain. Romans embraced these risks eagerly, finding thrilling entertainment in every near-death experience racers faced, provided, of course, it wasn't their own near-death experience. Right now, however, historical context feels significantly less comforting. Your immediate concern revolves entirely around not becoming tomorrow's cautionary tale whispered grimly around Roman taverns. Your chariot continues skidding alarmingly sideways, wheels spinning uselessly over loose sand, horses panicking as they sense control slipping. Brutus snarls furiously, muscles bulging impressively yet futilely against harness restraints. Livia skitters anxiously, her nerves finally overwhelming calm. Senator stubbornly halts, unsurprisingly complicating matters further, and Jupiter, normally calm anchor, now snorts irritably, clearly offended by unexpected chaos interrupting his equine tranquility. You struggle fiercely to regain control, muscles screaming protest as you desperately counterbalance Chariot's relentless sideways slide. Your feet skid slightly across platform, dangerously close to slipping entirely. Heart hammering desperately, adrenaline flooding veins, instincts screaming urgency. Romans adored spectacle, but right now, you'd prefer significantly less drama, especially involving your own precarious survival. The track ahead narrows suddenly, forcing rapid decision. Attempt regaining control immediately or abandon Chariot entirely, accepting humiliating defeat but ensuring survival. Historically, Romans admired bravery but respected practicality. Charioteers occasionally chose strategic defeat rather than senseless tragedy. However, pride complicates matters. You stubbornly refuse humiliating defeat without attempting every possible recovery. With desperate determination, you tug reins fiercely, urging panicked horses into alignment. Brutus snarls defiantly but complies reluctantly, muscles straining impressively as he adjusts trajectory slightly. Livia skitters hesitantly, nerves frayed but obediently following Brutus's lead. Senator grudgingly moves forward again, clearly irritated by inconvenient chaos. Jupiter calms swiftly, reassuming serene rhythm once control stabilizes slightly. Your chariot gradually straightens, wheels skidding briefly again but slowly regaining traction. Relief floods fiercely through veins, adrenaline fading slightly yet heartbeats still racing desperately. Romans famously appreciated drama, risk, near tragedy, but you'd gladly settle for significantly less excitement, at least temporarily. Historians still debate precise survival rates among Roman charioteers. Estimates vary widely, though undeniably, injuries remained frequent, occasionally severe. Right now, historical accuracy remains significantly less comforting. Your immediate priority revolves entirely around ensuring continued survival rather than debating precise statistics. Crowds erupt enthusiastically, thrilled by near disaster, drama, spectacle. Romans adored unpredictability, especially involving near tragedy, provided, again, tragedy affected others rather than themselves. You briefly consider offering sarcastic bow, acknowledging their enthusiasm, but wisely reconsider. Maintaining balance atop Chariot remains difficult enough without additional theatrics. A head stretches track open, invitingly safe, at least temporarily. You exhale slowly, savoring rare, precious stability amid relentless Roman racing chaos. Horses settle gradually into calmer rhythm. Brutus resumes confident stride, Livia nervously regains composure, Senator stubbornly keeps pace, Jupiter serenely trots onward, clearly indifferent toward recent near disaster. You silently envy Jupiter's equine tranquility. Calm remains significantly harder achieved for yourself. Chariot rattles slightly again beneath feet, wheels occasionally skidding but maintaining traction adequately, for now. Romans famously loved unpredictability. Crashes, near tragedy, drama provided endless entertainment. You briefly question sanity willingly participating here. Then again, Romans famously admired daring, courage, occasional foolishness. Chariot racing, arguably, embodied all three perfectly. Your grip tightens again instinctively on reins. Muscles sore from recent exertion yet alert, ready. Near disaster narrowly avoided, though inevitably, fresh dangers await inevitably ahead. Romans famously enjoyed constant unpredictability. Chariot racing, fittingly, provided precisely that. Constant excitement, relentless peril, endless opportunities drama. Ahead stretches track dangerously yet invitingly open. Filled rivals, risk, relentless Roman racing chaos. You tighten grip again, lean slightly forward. Silently determined whatever dangers await, courage, skill remain adequate challenges inevitably ahead. Crowds cheer enthusiastically. Thrilled recent near disaster provided spectacular drama. Romans adored unpredictability, complexity, daring. Qualities embodied perfectly here. You silently acknowledge enthusiasm, though occasionally question their sanity. Then again, willingly racing Roman chariots suggests questionable sanity itself. Settling rhythmically again into steady gallop, you exhale slowly, savoring brief respite amid chaos. Romans famously loved unpredictability, excitement, drama. Qualities perfectly embodied here. Surviving another near disaster feels victorious, at least until inevitable next crisis arises, testing courage, skill, balance again. Yet strangely, amid chaos, excitement, constant peril, you feel oddly calm, perhaps Roman racing paradox itself, perfectly embodied here. Ahead stretches track dangerously yet invitingly open. Filled rivals, risk, relentless Roman racing chaos. You tighten grip again, lean slightly forward. Silently determined whatever dangers await, courage, skill remain adequate challenges inevitably ahead. Romans adored unpredictability, complexity, daring. Qualities perfectly embodied here. Surviving another lap feels victorious, at least until inevitable next crisis arises, testing courage, skill, balance again. Yet strangely, amid chaos, complexity, excitement, you feel oddly calm, perhaps Roman racing paradox itself, perfectly embodied here. The adrenaline spike from your near catastrophe slowly ebbs away, leaving behind a bone-deep weariness that settles heavy in your muscles. By now, every part of your body aches fiercely, from shoulders tensed in constant readiness, to fingers numb from gripping leather reins, to knees shaking slightly from repeated shocks absorbed with every skidding turn and near miss. Historians often wonder aloud how ancient charioteers endured races lasting multiple laps. Experiencing it firsthand, you're inclined to agree it's a small miracle anyone survived this brutal, relentless ordeal at all. Fatigue creeps insidiously into your awareness, blurring senses slightly, forcing renewed effort to remain sharply focused. Romans famously admired physical endurance. Gladiators, soldiers, and yes, charioteers all epitomized Roman virtues of strength, stamina, and stubborn refusal to surrender. Right now, however, historical ideals offer little comfort. Your immediate priority revolves entirely around surviving the relentless pounding of hooves, rattling of wheels, and unending chaos that Roman racing inevitably provides. Ahead, another lap marker passes, reminding you painfully just how long this grueling contest lasts. You briefly envy Roman spectators comfortably seated above, sipping wine, placing wagers, enjoying spectacle without enduring constant peril. Romans adored endurance contests precisely because they tested human limits. Spectators found endless fascination watching others endure discomfort, danger, exhaustion. You silently wonder about their taste, though admittedly, willingly racing Roman chariots suggests questionable taste itself. Your horses sense your weariness, responding subtly yet perceptibly. Brutus slightly slows, powerful stride diminished slightly, Senator stubbornly drags pace slightly slower, Livia nervously skitters more frequently, Jupiter, predictably serene, maintains pace calmly yet slightly less energetically. Animals mirrored human emotions closely. Your fatigue inevitably impacts horses' performance, forcing renewed effort to conceal exhaustion carefully. Historically, Romans famously debated precisely how significantly charioteers' mental states impacted race outcomes. Historians still argue passionately whether confidence, anxiety, fatigue genuinely influenced racing success. Experiencing exhaustion firsthand, however, you firmly believe fatigue significantly impacts performance. Mental and physical stamina intimately linked here, each affecting other profoundly. Crowds above cheer enthusiastically. Thrilled recent drama, near disaster provided spectacular entertainment. Romans famously enjoyed endurance contests precisely because they tested human limits. Spectators found endless fascination watching others endure discomfort, danger, exhaustion. You briefly question sanity, willingly providing their entertainment. Then again, Romans famously admired daring, courage, occasional foolishness. Chariot racing arguably embodied all three perfectly. Your chariot rattles slightly beneath your feet, wheels occasionally skidding but maintaining traction adequately, for now. Yet each shock reverberates painfully through your exhausted frame, muscles aching fiercely from constant exertion. You silently envy Jupiter's equine indifference. Animals typically endured physical exertion significantly better than humans, rarely visibly demonstrating fatigue despite relentless demands. Ahead stretches track dangerously yet invitingly open. Filled rivals, risk, relentless Roman racing chaos. You tighten grip again instinctively on reins. Muscles sore from recent exertion yet alert, ready. Fatigue complicates matters significantly. Mental sharpness dulled slightly, reflexes slowed subtly yet perceptibly, decision-making impaired dangerously. Romans famously admired endurance. Experiencing exhaustion firsthand, however, you appreciate fully just how significantly fatigue complicates survival here. Your horses gallop powerfully onward, responding subtly yet perceptibly to your silent encouragement. Brutus regains powerful stride, Senator stubbornly maintains pace grudgingly, Livia skitters anxiously yet steadily, Jupiter calmly continues trotting. Animals mirrored human emotions closely. Horses' subtle responses reflect your renewed determination despite fatigue. Crowds roar louder again. Thrilled recent near disaster, endurance test provided spectacular drama. Romans famously admired endurance precisely because it tested human limits. Spectators found endless fascination watching others endure discomfort, danger, exhaustion. You silently acknowledge their enthusiasm, though occasionally question their sanity. Then again, willingly racing Roman chariots arguably suggests questionable sanity itself. Historically, chariot racing tested human limits precisely because races lasted multiple exhausting laps. Historians still debate passionately precisely how significantly endurance impacted racing success. Experiencing exhaustion firsthand, however, you firmly believe fatigue significantly impacts performance. Mental and physical stamina intimately linked here, each affecting other profoundly. Your chariot rattles slightly again beneath your feet, wheels occasionally skidding alarmingly yet maintaining traction adequately, for now. Romans famously loved endurance contests precisely because they tested human limits. Spectators found endless fascination watching others endure discomfort, danger, exhaustion. You briefly question sanity, willingly providing their entertainment. Then again, Romans famously admired daring, courage, occasional foolishness. Chariot racing arguably embodied all three perfectly. Ahead stretches track dangerously yet invitingly open. Filled rivals, risk, relentless Roman racing chaos. You tighten grip again instinctively on reins. Muscles sore from recent exertion yet alert, ready. Fatigue complicates matters significantly. Mental sharpness dulled slightly, reflexes slowed subtly yet perceptibly, decision-making impaired dangerously. Romans famously admired endurance. Experiencing exhaustion firsthand, however, you appreciate fully just how significantly fatigue complicates survival here. Your horses gallop powerfully onward, responding subtly yet perceptibly to your silent encouragement. Brutus regains powerful stride, Senator stubbornly maintains pace grudgingly, Livia skitters anxiously yet steadily, Jupiter calmly continues trotting. Animals mirrored human emotions closely. Horses' subtle responses reflect your renewed determination despite fatigue. Crowds cheer enthusiastically. Thrilled recent near disaster, endurance test provided spectacular drama. Romans famously admired endurance precisely because it tested human limits. Spectators found endless fascination watching others endure discomfort, danger, exhaustion. You silently acknowledge their enthusiasm, though occasionally question their sanity. Then again, willingly racing Roman chariots arguably suggests questionable sanity itself. Settling rhythmically again into steady gallop, you exhale slowly, savoring brief respite amid exhaustion. Romans famously loved endurance contests precisely because they tested human limits. Spectators found endless fascination watching others endure discomfort, danger, exhaustion. Surviving another exhausting lap feels victorious, at least until inevitable next crisis arises, testing courage, skill, balance again. Yet strangely, amid fatigue, exhaustion, constant peril, you feel oddly calm, perhaps Roman racing paradox itself, perfectly embodied here. Ahead stretches track dangerously yet invitingly open. Filled rivals, risk, relentless Roman racing chaos. You tighten grip again, lean slightly forward. Silently determined whatever dangers await, courage, skill remain adequate challenges inevitably ahead. Romans adored unpredictability, complexity, daring. Qualities perfectly embodied here. Surviving another exhausting lap feels victorious, at least until inevitable next crisis arises, testing courage, skill, balance again. Yet strangely, amid fatigue, exhaustion, excitement, you feel oddly calm, perhaps Roman racing paradox itself, perfectly embodied here. Through the haze of exhaustion, a sudden surge of excitement ripples through the stadium. The distant glint of sunlight catches something unmistakable ahead. The finish line, tantalizingly close yet cruelly distant. Your heart leaps, exhaustion momentarily forgotten, replaced instantly by a powerful rush of adrenaline. Romans adored dramatic finishes, and your race promises exactly that, a tense, thrilling climax worthy of Rome's famously demanding spectators. Your horses sense your excitement, responding immediately. Brutus surges forward eagerly, Senator grudgingly accelerates, Livia skitters anxiously but swiftly, Jupiter calmly increases his stride, apparently intrigued by your renewed urgency. Animals mirrored human emotions closely. Your horses respond subtly yet perceptibly, sensing victory within grasp. Historically, Roman chariot races often ended dramatically. Close finishes, surprise winners, occasionally spectacular crashes at final moments. Romans adored unpredictability, drama, risk, all perfectly embodied here. You briefly consider potential outcomes, victory tantalizingly close yet fragilely uncertain. Romans famously hedged bets enthusiastically, wagering significant fortunes precisely because outcomes remained unpredictable until final moments. Crowds cheer louder now, sensing finish approaching, excitement building dramatically. Romans adored dramatic finishes precisely because they tested human limits. Endurance, skill, daring combined perfectly here. You silently acknowledge their enthusiasm, though occasionally question their taste. Then again, willingly racing Roman chariots arguably suggests questionable taste itself. Your chariot rattles slightly beneath your feet, wheels occasionally skidding but maintaining traction adequately, for now. Romans famously admired dramatic finishes precisely because they tested human limits. Spectators found endless fascination watching others endure discomfort, danger, exhaustion until final moments. You briefly questioned sanity, willingly providing their entertainment. Then again, Romans famously admired daring, courage, occasional foolishness. Chariot racing arguably embodied all three perfectly. Ahead, competitors sense urgency too, each accelerating dramatically, desperately jockeying position as finish approaches. Your pulse quickens sharply, excitement, anxiety mingling dangerously yet exhilaratingly. Romans adored unpredictability, risk, drama, qualities perfectly embodied here. Victory tantalizingly close yet fragilely uncertain. Romans famously hedged bets enthusiastically, wagering significant fortunes precisely because outcomes remained unpredictable until final moments. Your horses gallop powerfully onward, responding subtly yet perceptibly to your silent encouragement. Brutus surges forward eagerly, Senator grudgingly accelerates, Livia skitters anxiously but swiftly, Jupiter calmly increases his stride, apparently intrigued by your renewed urgency. Animals mirrored human emotions closely, your horses respond subtly yet perceptibly, sensing victory within grasp. Historically, Romans famously debated precisely how significantly mental states impacted race outcomes. Confidence, anxiety, excitement genuinely influencing racing success. Experiencing excitement firsthand, however, you firmly believe emotional state significantly impacts performance. Mental and physical stamina intimately linked here, each affecting other profoundly. Your chariot rattles slightly again beneath your feet, wheels occasionally skidding alarmingly yet maintaining traction adequately, for now. Romans famously loved dramatic finishes precisely because they tested human limits. Endurance, skill, daring combined perfectly here. You briefly questioned sanity, willingly providing their entertainment. Then again, Romans famously admired daring, courage, occasional foolishness. Chariot racing arguably embodied all three perfectly. Crowds cheer louder now, sensing finish approaching, excitement building dramatically. Romans adored dramatic finishes precisely because they tested human limits. Endurance, skill, daring combined perfectly here. You silently acknowledge their enthusiasm, though occasionally question their taste. Then again, willingly racing Roman chariots arguably suggests questionable taste itself. Ahead stretches track dangerously yet invitingly open. Filled rivals, risk, relentless Roman racing chaos. Finish tantalizingly close yet fragilely uncertain. Romans famously hedged bets enthusiastically, wagering significant fortunes precisely because outcomes remained unpredictable until final moments. Your pulse quickens sharply, excitement, anxiety mingling dangerously yet exhilaratingly. Your horses gallop powerfully onward, responding subtly yet perceptibly to your silent encouragement. Brutus surges forward eagerly, Senator grudgingly accelerates, Livia skitters anxiously but swiftly, Jupiter calmly increases his stride, apparently intrigued by your renewed urgency. Animals mirrored human emotions closely, your horses respond subtly yet perceptibly, sensing victory within grasp. Historically, Romans famously debated precisely how significantly mental states impacted race outcomes. Confidence, anxiety, excitement genuinely influencing racing success. Experiencing excitement firsthand, however, you firmly believe emotional state significantly impacts performance. Mental and physical stamina intimately linked here, each affecting other profoundly. Your chariot rattles slightly again beneath your feet, wheels occasionally skidding alarmingly yet maintaining traction adequately, for now. Romans famously loved dramatic finishes precisely because they tested human limits. Endurance, skill, daring combined perfectly here. You briefly questioned sanity, willingly providing their entertainment. Then again, Romans famously admired daring, courage, occasional foolishness. Chariot racing arguably embodied all three perfectly. crowds cheer louder now, sensing finish approaching, excitement building dramatically. Romans adored dramatic finishes precisely because they tested human limits. Endurance, skill, daring combined perfectly here. You silently acknowledge their enthusiasm, though occasionally question their taste. Then again, willingly racing Roman chariots arguably suggests questionable taste itself. Settling rhythmically again into steady gallop, you exhale slowly, savoring brief respite amid excitement. Romans famously loved dramatic finishes precisely because they tested human limits. Endurance, skill, daring combined perfectly here. Surviving another exciting lap feels victorious, at least until inevitable next crisis arises, testing courage, skill, balance again. Yet strangely, amid excitement, anxiety, constant peril, you feel oddly calm, perhaps Roman racing paradox itself, perfectly embodied here. Ahead stretches track dangerously yet invitingly open. Filled rivals, risk, relentless Roman racing chaos. Finish tantalizingly close yet fragilely uncertain. Romans famously hedged bets enthusiastically, wagering significant fortunes precisely because outcomes remained unpredictable until final moments. Romans adored unpredictability, complexity, daring, qualities perfectly embodied here. Surviving another exciting lap feels victorious, at least until inevitable next crisis arises, testing courage, skill, balance again. Yet strangely, amid excitement, anxiety, constant peril, you feel oddly calm, perhaps Roman racing paradox itself, perfectly embodied here. And then, it happens. The final corner peels away behind you, and suddenly, the home stretch bursts open before your eyes. The finish line stands ahead, shimmering in the midday haze like something out of myth, your promised land wrapped in dust and sunlight. Your chest tightens with anticipation. This is the moment. Everything you've endured, every wobble, every jolt, every near-death swerve, is funneling into this narrow corridor of time. Your legs burn. Your arms ache. But your mind? Sharpened like a gladius, focused only on the 10 or so heartbeats between you and victory. The crowd surges into an even greater frenzy. The sound is no longer a roar, it's a living thing, a beast with 100,000 throats all screaming as one. You could swear the very stones of the Circus Maximus vibrate with the weight of that noise. And somewhere in that din, you hear your name. Or maybe it's your imagination. At this point, it doesn't matter. You're too far gone in the moment to question anything. Your rivals flank you, still pushing hard. One on your left lashes his whip in the air, not at his horses, but near yours, hoping to startle them off stride. Classic dirty tactic. You respond with a snarl of your own and a calculated jerk of the reins. Brutus growls, yes, audibly growls, and surges forward like he's been insulted. Jupiter, unflappable as ever, simply gallops with calm, terrifying power, a horse-shaped embodiment of inevitability. And just like that, you're ahead. It's a nose-length lead, maybe less, but it's yours. And in this race, sometimes the difference between fame and infamy is the width of a single olive pit. You risk a glance to your side. The same aggressive racer who jostled you earlier is now baring his teeth, squinting against the dust, eyes wild. He's pushing his chariot recklessly, leaning dangerously forward, whispering to his horses like they'll grow wings if he just begs hard enough. You turn your gaze forward again. You don't whisper. You don't beg. You command. Because that's what Roman charioteers do. You shout a single word, and your team, Brutus, Livia, Senator, Jupiter, answers with everything they have left. Your chariot lifts slightly off the track for the briefest of moments as you hit a patch of compacted sand, the wheels clattering back down with a jarring thud. You keep your balance. Barely. The stands erupt in another wave of deafening sound. Cheering, clapping, some even standing up and shouting your name. Yes, definitely your name this time. Senators lean over the edges of their marble boxes. Children climb up onto their fathers' shoulders. The gamblers. Oh, the gamblers. Some cheer, others scream in despair. Livelihoods hang on your momentum. Historians have long debated whether the victor's moment in a chariot race felt more like personal glory or divine possession. Right now, it feels like both. You don't just feel fast, you feel chosen. You pull ahead. Half a length now, then nearly a full wheel. The line draws closer with terrifying speed. The horses foam at the mouth, their legs blurs of motion. You don't even feel the chariot under your feet anymore. You're riding the noise, the sun, the pure velocity. And then, like a blade slicing through cloth, it's over. Your wheels cross the finish. The world lurches. The momentum still crashes forward, but your mind, it slows. Like a storm suddenly gone quiet. You release the reins just enough to signal a slowdown, and your horses, bless them, begin to reduce their pace, panting, chests heaving. You're panting too. Sweat drips from your brow. Dust clings to every inch of your skin, every crevice of your tunic. Your muscles tremble, not from movement now, but from the strain finally being allowed to settle. You did it. The crowd's reaction hits you in waves. Screams, applause, the stomp of sandals on stone. Flowers thrown into the air. Someone tosses what looks like an actual chicken, uncooked. That's unusual, but honestly, this is Rome. You've seen stranger. You slowly turn your chariot toward the deceleration lane, catching your breath as attendants rush out to help slow and guide the teams. One young boy runs alongside your wheel, grinning ear to ear like you're Hercules himself. He hands you a palm leaf, a traditional sign of victory. You take it, hand trembling slightly, and raise it just enough to let the stadium see. That's all they need. The response is instant. A chorus of approval. Rome, in all its bloody, chaotic glory, loves a winner. And for this fleeting moment, you are that winner. The victor. The champion of the sands. The one who didn't fall, didn't crash, didn't buckle under pressure. The one who, despite all odds, crossed that line first. You glance upward at the imperial box. A figure stands, a blur in embroidered robes. A dignitary? A patron? Maybe even the emperor himself. He lifts a hand in salute. You lift your palm frond in return. A rare, brief acknowledgement between two utterly different worlds. Yours made of dust and danger, his of silk and safety. Your rivals pull in behind you, one slumped forward in defeat, another waving to the crowd with forced dignity. The aggressive one from earlier glares your way, then gives a begrudging nod. You return it. That's the Roman way. Win or lose, leave the track upright. As your horses are led away, frothing and exhausted, you step down from the chariot. Your legs buckle a little. No shame in that. Everyone sees it. No one mocks. Even the most vocal spectators fall quiet when the champion takes that first shaky step onto solid ground. You breathe. You laugh. And then, because you're still a Roman, you brace for the next thing life will throw at you. But for now, you won. Backstage in the stables, the noise of the stadium fades to a dull, distant thrum, like thunder receding over far hills. The scent of dust and sweat still clings to your skin, mingled now with the pungent odor of horses being watered and rubbed down. Your arms ache. Your knees feel like they've aged 30 years. But there's something strangely calming about this after-battle quiet, the hush that follows the storm. The grooms and attendants move with focused energy, untying harnesses, murmuring soothing words to the winded horses. Livia is breathing hard but safe. Jupiter, bless him, looks completely unbothered, as if he spent the race contemplating clouds rather than outrunning death. Brutus tries to start a small fight with a wooden bucket. Senator, true to form, has flopped down in a dramatic show of fatigue. Typical. A medic stops you briefly, pressing a cool, damp cloth into your hand. You dab your face with it, eyes stinging with the mix of sweat and sand. Your body trembles faintly, not from weakness, but from the tail end of the adrenaline rush that has sustained you until now. It's like waking up from a dream where you were both the hero and the hostage. Nearby, a priest of Fortuna approaches, a small, soft-spoken man in ivory robes. He bows slightly and offers a blessing in lilting Latin, sprinkling you and your horses with what may or may not be wine. Honestly, you're not sure. Romans loved mixing ceremony with alcohol in ways that modern scholars are still trying to sort out. You nod politely. Ritual is ritual, after all. Romans believed victory was never purely a matter of strength or skill. It was a pact between mortal effort and divine whim. You played your part, and apparently, today the gods decided to show up on time. Your attendants begin the slow, careful process of stripping down the chariot, inspecting the frame, tightening bolts, checking for cracks in the wheels. One points out a split in the wooden axle that likely began during your near-death skid in the third lap. Had it gone even a little deeper, your glorious finish might have turned into a very different kind of finale. You don't say anything, you just stare at the thin, dark fracture line and quietly mouth, "Thank you, Fortuna." Across the stable yard, a group of spectators waits behind a barrier, eager to glimpse the hero of the sands. Some carry offerings, bread, coins, even a small terracotta figurine that looks vaguely like you, though with bigger muscles. You wave once, modestly. Their cheers warm you more than the sun, and more than the money that's probably being counted for you by a bookkeeper who, let's face it, will definitely skim a few denarii. Roman tradition dictates that a victorious charioteer visits the shrine of victory immediately after the race. You make your way there now, muscles stiff, but your stride proud. The shrine itself is small, just an arched alcove with a statue of Victoria, wings outspread, holding a laurel crown. You kneel, touch the base of the statue, and whisper a few words. Not a prayer exactly, more of a thank you and a promise. Gratitude for surviving. A vow to remember the fallen racers, even if the crowd already doesn't. Historians still argue whether the Roman obsession with ritual was religious devotion or social theater. Perhaps it was both. But in this moment, as your body throbs with pain and your ears still ring from the cheers, you understand the deeper reason for the rite. It gives meaning to madness. It anchors you. Back at the stables, you remove your racing gear slowly, every strap and buckle like peeling away a second skin. Your tunic clings uncomfortably to your torso, soaked in sweat and crusted with sand. You wince as you peel it off. There's a fresh bruise blooming on your hip and another on your forearm that you hadn't even noticed until now. A boy hands you a clean tunic. It's plain white linen, nothing special, but it feels like silk against your skin. You breathe in deeply, letting yourself finally relax. The race is over. Your body survived. Your reputation is now sealed, at least until your next race. And now, as is tradition, there must be a feast. Victorious charioteers are often guests of honor at elaborate banquets thrown by patrons, senators, or faction leaders. It's part celebration, part marketing. The blues or the greens, whichever faction you raced for, will want you in prime form, polished, visible, praising the gods and the team. And there will be wine. Too much wine. You know how this works. You'll be expected to tell the story of the race a dozen times. Each retelling will grow slightly more dramatic. By the fifth telling, you'll swear your will caught fire. By the 10th, Jupiter will have spoken fluent Latin. Nobody will mind. Romans loved a good embellishment, especially if it involved their favorite racer nearly dying spectacularly. There will be laughter, applause, and the occasional challenge from an envious rival at the table. But for tonight, your name will carry weight. Your victory will echo from the stables to the Subura, from the taverns to the temples. Your face may even appear on clay oil lamps or graffiti walls by morning. You think briefly of those who didn't finish today's race. One cart lies broken near the third turn, its driver limping away under the care of medics. He'll heal. Probably. Others were not so lucky in previous races. The circus is a place of triumph, yes, but it's also a place of loss. You respect that. You never forget that. You stare at the reins in your hands one last time before they're taken for cleaning. Your fingers are stiff, but they close instinctively around the leather. The weight of them is different now. Heavier, somehow. As if soaked in something sacred. Tomorrow, they may call for you again. But for tonight, you are the charioteer who conquered chaos and rode the will of Rome. Evening descends on Rome like a velvet curtain pulled gently over the chaos of the day. The sun slips lower behind the hills, casting long shadows across the marble walls of the Circus Maximus, now nearly empty except for a few lingering workers sweeping sand into neat piles and collecting debris from the race. Where there had been thunderous applause and flying garlands, now there is only the distant clatter of cart wheels and the soft murmur of fading conversation. You sit on a low stone bench near the stables, your body finally still. The soreness has deepened into a kind of pleasant ache, the kind you wear like a badge. Your muscles are tired, your eyelids heavy, but your mind is alight. It replays the race in fragments. Brutus's charge, the near miss on the Widowmaker turn, the wild moment your chariot lifted off the ground, and that final breathless dash over the finish line. Around your neck hangs the victor's garland, freshly woven with laurel leaves and a few golden threads. It's slightly crooked, and one of the leaves is already wilted, but you don't fix it. It feels more honest that way, like the race itself, rough, imperfect, real. Nearby, a few young apprentices gather to ask you questions. How fast were you going? What's it like to nearly die? Did Brutus really growl? You smile, answering what you can, exaggerating here and there as Roman heroes are expected to do. One child asks if you were afraid, and you pause. Were you? You think of the sickening tilt of your chariot in the third lap, the glint of broken wheel spokes flying through the air, the split axle that held together by divine intervention or pure stubborn physics. Yes, you were afraid. But you tell the child, only a little, and that's enough to make him grin like you're Jupiter's personal driver. You lean back, watching the darkening sky. Stars blink into view, shyly at first. Rome at night is a different creature. Slower, softer, filled with the scent of baking bread and the distant hum of lyres and flutes drifting from windows. Somewhere beyond the Palatine, the parties are beginning. Your name is probably already being toasted in wine-soaked speeches. Songs may even be written by morning, though they'll get your horse names wrong, and someone will definitely claim you're descended from Aeneas. You think for a moment about the future. Not just the next race, though that's already looming like a shadow in the back of your mind, but the life beyond this dangerous career. Some charioteers retire early, if they're lucky, with enough money to buy a vineyard or a quiet house on the edge of the city. Others are less lucky. A wheel breaks wrong, a rival nudges too hard, and it's all over. Historians still argue whether Roman charioteers were considered true celebrities or just temporary obsessions, fads to be replaced by the next crash, the next rising star. Sitting here, wrapped in dust and starlight, you think the truth is both. Fame here is brilliant, fleeting, and sharp-edged. Like sunlight through a wine goblet, beautiful, but easy to shatter. You glance at your hands, calloused and scraped. You flex your fingers slowly. These are hands that held life and death by leather threads. They don't tremble now. There's something peaceful about that. From the stable entrance, a familiar voice calls your name. It's your patron, part sponsor, part manager, part political opportunist. He's dressed finer than he needs to be, wearing a tunic trimmed in gold and a ring you're pretty sure he wasn't wearing yesterday. A good win benefits everyone. He claps you on the shoulder and offers congratulations, followed by subtle hints about upcoming races, friendly exhibitions and appearances. "There's talk of you racing in Carthage," he says casually, as if you hadn't nearly died an hour ago. You smile, nod politely. You've learned that in Rome, rest is always a negotiation. Still, he tells you something interesting before he leaves. A senator in the imperial box spoke your name. That senator, he says, was impressed. That senator might offer something. An invitation. A favor. A door opening. You nod again, slower this time. Because Rome rewards the bold, but it remembers the survivors. And tonight you're both. The stars are brighter now. The moon climbs lazily over the rooftops. You stretch your legs, rising slowly, feeling the weight of the day in every joint. You walk once more toward the edge of the track, now cool and quiet. You stare at the sand. The same sand that held your wheels. That almost took your life. That gave you victory. You crouch down, scoop a handful of it into your palm. Gritty. Damp with sweat and wine and who knows what else. You let it trickle through your fingers like grains of time. And then you smile, because for all the danger, the noise, the bruises, the politics, the gods, the gamblers, the glory, you do it again. Not for the fame, not for the money, but for that one impossible moment when the chariot flies, the crowd roars, and the world holds its breath. The road home is slow and quiet. You're wrapped in a loose cloak now, its edges drawn up around your shoulders to guard against the cool night breeze that slips through the city's ancient stone alleys. Your sandals scuff lightly against the cobbles as you walk, a calm, even rhythm that contrasts deeply with the thunderous pace of earlier. Rome hums around you in the distance. Vendors closing stalls, flickering torches lining the forum, the low murmur of late-night conversations drifting out from shaded courtyards. You pass through familiar streets, ones you've walked as a nobody, then as a name, now as a victor. You notice glances from strangers. Not gawking, not intrusive, just different. A recognition, like they know what you've done. Like they've seen your face on a banner, or heard your name in a tavern toast, or perhaps even watched you from the high seats today and cheered when your wheels crossed first. Victory in Rome lingers. Not forever, but long enough to savor. You approach your modest home near the edge of the Aventine. It's simple, stone walls, a vine-covered doorway, a garden small enough to sweep in 10 minutes. But it's yours. Bought with winnings from a dozen races and preserved through luck, sacrifice, and more than one clever negotiation with your patron. You slip inside, shoulders relaxing the moment the door closes behind you. The noise of Rome fades into a muted hush, replaced by the stillness of quiet walls and clay lamps casting golden shadows. You sit, slowly, carefully, and breathe. The silence feels heavier now, not oppressive, just deep, full. You take a long drink from a bowl of cool water and press another to your bruised shoulder. The heat of the race has left you, replaced by an aching chill, like the body's way of reminding you just how far you pushed it. There are scrolls here, fables, histories, even one volume on horsemanship you've never finished reading. You think briefly about reading something tonight, but your body gently votes no. So you just sit in the quiet, watching the oil lamp flicker and casting warm light across the room's familiar corners. You think back to the race. Not the cheers. Not the victory. The rhythm. That moment on the final lap when all your horses aligned perfectly, your chariot hummed with momentum, and time itself seemed to bend. That's what stays with you. Not the danger. Not even the glory. But the feeling that, for a few heartbeats, you became part of something greater. Something sacred. You think about your fellow racers, too. You wonder how many will sleep well tonight. How many will race again? How many won't? It's the unspoken reality of the job. Triumph and tragedy yoked together like matched horses, always pulling side by side. Historians still argue whether the most successful charioteers were more admired than soldiers, even senators. Some say yes. Others claim their fame was fleeting, quickly forgotten once their winning streak ended. You suspect both views are true. For now, your name might be scratched onto a wall or woven into a song. But Rome moves fast. Its memory is long, but its attention span, notoriously short. But that's fine. You never raced for statues or coins. You raced to be alive. To feel the wind split around you. To defy the gods for one breathless moment, and live. You rise, stretch, and walk to the garden. The night sky opens above you, vast and deep and glittering with stars. The moon floats high and heavy over Rome, watching silently as it always has. You lie back on a stone bench, staring upward, the weight of the day finally lifting from your chest. The cool air soothes your skin. The scent of rosemary and old dust fills your lungs. And slowly, softly, your eyes begin to close. You don't need a lullaby tonight. You've already heard it, in the rhythm of hooves, in the roar of the crowd, in the silence that followed. You survived. You triumphed. And now, you rest. The city breathes around you now, slow and steady. The torches are nearly out. The streets have gone still. And up above, the stars twinkle like scattered fragments of a laurel crown, glinting softly across the sky. Your body begins to settle, heavy and warm. Each muscle unwinds. Each thought floats away like dust stirred by a gentle breeze. You feel the stone beneath you, the earth steady and cool, as if the entire city has wrapped you in a quiet embrace. There are no crowds here. No wheels rattling. No rivals to outpace. Just the sound of your breath, slow and even. Just the whisper of leaves in the garden. You did what only a few dared to try. You ran with the gods, danced with danger, and heard Rome scream your name. Now there's only this, the night, the stars, the soft hush of peace after glory. Let your mind drift where it wants. Let the weight of the day fall away. You're safe now. Tomorrow will bring what it will, but for tonight, you've crossed the finish line. You've earned your rest. Close your eyes. Breathe in. And let sleep carry you like a chariot into dreams. Sweet dreams, distant friends, blessed be your beautiful souls.